We always look like we just got up. I think because we're
Yeah,
just like,
I just
I'm
got up.
not,
exhausted. I'm ready
yeah.
to go to bed. It's the
There we
opposite.
go. See, that's why it's good that you're on this
Hmm.
episode.
Hello, welcome back to the Friends of Zeus, Friends of Pod, Zeus
The
cast.
Friends of Pod Zeuscast.
Wow, that sounds egocentric.
I love it.
Friends of Zeus podcast. This is episode 143.
Too.
No, I thought last one was 2. God damn, I'll get it
I
right
don't
one
know.
day. I was on a good stretch of getting it right. And now I'm just, I guess it's lack of sleep.
It's
Um,
it's the extensive research.
yes.
Yeah, it's
It's all that
142.
time
The last one
It's
was
all that time I
141.
spend not pontificating on shit that I don't know about.
Right.
It really drains the number gear in my head. Tonight is episode 142. Tonight is Mike's show. He wants to talk about that thing that we all need more of, or maybe don't. We'll discuss that. Sleep. We're going to
Yes.
talk about in dreams and sleep apnea and whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. So
Sleep
Comes up.
I mean the the little disclaimer here at the beginning. I'm not a subject matter expert on sleep. I am not a sleep doctor, although I have
I've done a
seen
lot of
sleep
research
doctors. I know a lot about sleep. I know about my sleep, but it's just something that kind of fascinates me, and I figured we haven't done a show about sleep. It's always interesting, so figure we give it a whirl. So
So
first, just
stay awake for this episode.
yeah, everyone stay awake. I know Dana's getting ready to go to sleep. We all generally go to sleep after this podcast. Generally.
I go and drink away my tears for a little longer, and
And then
I
eventually, yeah,
Eventually
eventually
pass out.
sleep comes. So looking into sleep, there's this topic is enormous, so we can talk about whatever floats you guys' boat, but I'd want to do a little introduction, maybe spread some knowledge that some of our viewer may not know about with sleep, and just get some basic vocabulary out of the way. One thing with sleep that is very interesting to me right off the bat is there is no agreed upon biological purpose for it. In other words, although it occurs throughout the animal kingdom, in we are finding species even in modern times more and more that have some phase of sleep, or that sleep animals that we didn't think sleep, that do sleep, like um cellular, like small, like microscopic creatures and things like that.
even sharks as they swim along in the ocean, they're sleeping. It's
Will
all
sleep.
like
Yeah, and
automatic.
I mean back in the I remember when I was younger, like learning about stuff like that, a lot of it was like, well, it's caloric conservation. When we were nomadic, we're going around, we're hunters, we're gathering, we're eating, and then that night we really can't do anything because the lights are out. Sleep, whatever. That's one thought. But again, there's really no consensus on what the purpose is. As far as human beings are concerned, and these are very rough, but the actual sleeping habits of these age groups doesn't mean it's what's best, but this is tends to be worldwide average. Babies 16 to 18 hours, and they don't define how old that gets. I think that's pretty young. I mean, usually
Probably
by
like
the time,
4 somewhere around there.
yeah, I mean, once you're 4 months or more, you're probably not sleeping that much. School age children, 9.5 hours of sleep. Adults, 7 to 9 hours, and senior citizens 5 hours.
I find that very
Wow.
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm as the older I get, the more sleep I
Well, they the thing is, I looked like some people, again, they used to postulate, and again, a lot of this is research is still being done. There's a bazillion studies that you can look at, but it used to be thought that, seniors sleep less because they're not growing anymore, blah, 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 blah. They just, they don't put out as much energy. But there's a lot of it is that they just don't sleep because they have issues with hearing, with seeing, and lack of hearing, lack of seeing can actually affect your sleep. It messes with your circadian rhythms because you're not tied to the light cycles as much anymore, or sound inputs in your environment to tell you, it's time to sleep. Senior citizens take different medications that may disrupt their sleep. I think it's a little bit of both, but who knows? We're all about 50, 52 years old, so we sleep generally about a third of our day in general.
Lifetime,
I'm sorry?
Lucky you.
of our lifetime.
Of our lifetime. So if you're 52, that's just over 17 years of your life sleeping, which is just amazing to me. The stages of sleep, there's 4 stages of sleep. 1, 2, and 3 are basically, they're non-REM sleep, non-rapid eye movement sleep. They just have certain measures of things, and what they're measuring is breathing rate, heart rate, just general wakefulness, things along those lines. So stage 1, it's from, basically feeling drowsy to sleep. It can last several minutes. Your heartbeat slow, your eyes don't move as much. They tend to fix. Your muscles relax. You may get some muscle twitching. Stage 2, your body temperature starts to drop. Your eye movement all but stops. Your brain waves slow down. It's the most common stage of sleep. It's the one that you spend the most time in, both going into deeper stages and coming out of it, because generally with sleep, unless you're startled awake, you go through the phases in and come back through the phases back out again. Third phase generally is the first half of the evening. That's your lowest heartbeat and your lowest breathing rate. REM sleep lasts for roughly 90 minutes per night if you're sleeping for 7 to 9 hours as an adult. And again, you have rapid eye movement. Your brain waves immediately increase. Your blood pressure increases almost to your heart rate, and your blood pressure increase to almost waking levels, which is pretty interesting. It's when you have your most dreams. And you tend to, as you get older, that period of REM sleep decreases in general as you get older. Again, sleep it's kind of a fraught thing. I think, again, personally, I've had a love-hate relationship with it most of my life. A lot of times when I was younger, I was like, I don't want to go to sleep. You always feel like you're missing out on something.
Oh, yeah.
These days I'm like, I dream about sleeping. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't wait to sleep. People of a certain age can start having issues with getting to sleep. And again, this whole idea for a podcast was spawned from just a offhand comment I think Jack and I had in a recent episode about sleep and like how important it is. And it really is. But anyway, so some general tips if you're having problems with sleeping. And I'm not talking about like super clinical insomnia where you should be seeing a doctor. I'm just generally. It's good to have a regular schedule. Like I've tried that. Definitely helps. Doing 20 to 30 minutes of exercise per day, not close to the time you're trying to go to sleep. In the hour or two before you go to sleep, no alcohol, nicotine, or caffeine will help. Before you go to bed, spending some time relaxing, like reading a book or just like laying down, like doing something calm for about half an hour before you want to go to sleep. Having a specific room or space that's for sleep. So it's like not a TV in your bedroom, tends to be dark. It's just for sleep. When you go there, you lay down, you go to sleep. And the other thing that I was looking at, another big hint was if you can't sleep, don't just lay there not sleeping, like get up, walk around, and then give it like 15 minutes and then go back in and try again. But it's not good to just lay there. The biggest influence, and this one I found interesting, this little factoid, because I've always kind of felt this way anyway, but the biggest or the single largest influence of feeling sleepy is light level. So, and I've done this too. Like if you're getting ready, if it's time to go to sleep, don't have every single light on in your house, like try to tone it down. It really starts to get your brain onto the sleep train up more than almost any other single factor. And again, I kind of wanted to get in, that's just a real quick introduction. Of course, we all know what sleep is, but just to real quick, just go over some basic facts. For me personally, I'm very interested in dreams, obviously, that have to do with sleep, and myths, like cultural myths, like how sleep is different in different cultures. There's also medical considerations, sleep apnea. I have sleep apnea. Millions and millions of people do. That's a whole other topic. Sleep deprivation, as far as like being a form of torture, as at the worst, or just living a lifestyle where you're constantly sleep deprived and all the medical and health risks that are involved with that. Culturally, sleep is viewed differently, and people sleep differently, and there's like kind of different rules about it across cultures. And there's been studies done on this. Generally, humans as a species, we all require the same amount of sleep biologically. There are, cross-culturally, there's different cultures that have different lengths of time. I know like Japanese people tend to sleep less. It's not because they don't need it, it's because just culturally they just sleep less. And in general, whatever culture you're in or people you're surrounded with, your sleep habits are going to tend to mimic theirs after a certain amount of time. Even if you move to a whole other part of the world, you're eventually just going to sync up with whatever those people are doing. But again, different cultures looking at sleep as a path of transcending the current world, sleep as a analog to death, in literature and entertainment, sleep and dreams as a pathway to prophecy, people interpreting dreams, sleep as a punishment, sleep bringing peace to people. Again, there's so many different facets to this. I would like to get in just to some like dream discussion eventually, but I wanted to start elsewhere and just kind of go around and see if sleep is something that you guys really put a lot of thought into, if you've had challenges in your life as far as like having trouble sleeping, or people, how serious it can get, if you do have trouble sleeping. Yeah, I mean, for some people it's a light subject. I've known people in my life where it was deadly serious, like where they just are having big problems, like having a healthy sleeping habit in their life, and it really affected them. But anyway, so that's the introduction.
Yeah, that's a lot there, Mike.
I know.
There's a lot to talk about.
I know.
I don't know.
I guess
I don't know where you want to get started. Go ahead, Zeus.
I was gonna say, speak for myself. I am in a household where everybody else's sleep is important, but I'm, the grown male in the house, so like mine is the least important, oddly enough. You should be keeping the battery strong on the one that's doing all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
But I don't get a lot of it. Like I was telling Mike came out to my house today to help me with some stuff around the house.
Get rid of some bodies.
Yeah. He
and help with the door. Help with the door. That's what it was.
And help with the door. That's what we call it.
Yeah.
Helping with the door, And I got woken up at like 3:45. And now you got to go do the world stuff. And I'm like, for me, sleep is very interesting. As you were saying, like the individualized sleeping habits of different people. Like I find it very strange that one person's sleep pattern they will try and push upon you.
Hmm.
Me, I've got a very complex. Dana can probably relate to this. Working evenings, you get used to it, but if you don't get to sleep a proper amount of hours, I think it affects you a lot more negatively when you're already going against your circadian rhythm. Like if I'm at home and I slept during the day, because I have to switch my rhythm every week. You know what I mean?
What do you mean by that? Your schedule?
Like, yeah, my schedule, my sleep schedule. So, and it's probably going to be going back to what it was before because I'm thinking about going back to my old job. But so it'd be like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I sleep during the day and go to work, and then on the fourth day, somebody won't let me sleep the full day because they want me to
Is this
do
that
stuff.
day? Is this that day, or is the day yesterday that day?
Well, the schedule is weird right now. I took on a bunch of extra hours because I'm trying to raise money for a gift for myself.
Mhm.
And
So you do partial day sleeping, which again is day sleeping is its own. You do
well,
both, which is very
Dana,
challenging.
have you heard of what do they call them? Blackout curtains?
Yeah,
Is
Mhm.
that
I
what they're
had
called?
one.
You have
I
them?
had
Yeah.
to have
So
one when I worked the night shift. I had like these blinds that were made of wood, and there was
Yeah,
absolutely zero light that would come through. But
yeah.
the blackout
Sleeping with light
curtain,
coming
the
in
same
is
concept.
sleeping with light coming in is so, and I'm talking natural light. Like I can sleep with the TV on, like you read about. In fact, it kind of soothes me into sleep. You know, maybe I just have, my synapses running at a different speed. So having that extra noise, that,
Mhm.
whatever's going on the TV, I think sometimes helps me sleep. But like just light that's filling a room, it's nerve wracking. I mean, torture in some keeping somebody from sleeping is a torture.
Hmm.
When I wake up and I only got like an hour's sleep, I'm like, God, I wish I would just die. Like literally, I mean, clearly I haven't followed through on it, but there is that like, oh my God, will this torture ever end kind of vibe when you're not getting enough sleep? Um, it's very important to me, not to everybody else, but yeah, I am looking forward to a day where I can take a few cat naps every once in a while and just have something that resembles a regular sleep pattern. Because it's also sleep is very much in tune. CHF for some reason has a lot of connections with lack of sleep, but it's probably more the apnea
What's
end of things.
CHF?
Congestive heart failure.
Oh.
It was basically your heart just is working. Dana, correct me where I'm wrong because I'm not a genius on this, but basically your heart is not pumping as strong as it could, so you start to take on like more water. Your breathing gets screwed up. A lot of times you get cardio. What is it called? You know the one I'm looking for, Dana.
Pericarditis.
Pericarditis, yeah. And that's where like water forms around your heart and causes more resistance to it pumping at its how it should. So it begins this whole trend. You don't have a heart attack. Your heart just slows down. It's like an old Toyota Corolla. It just can't drive anymore. It's kept you around for 50 years. It's done. So that's what
Not.
scares me.
Yeah, 50 years.
I'm apneic, I guess. I've got
You
apnea.
have apnea? Yeah.
Yeah, and
You
I cannot
experience
do.
apnea, I think is what it
Oh
is.
yeah. Last time I checked, it was like 80 stops in a night.
Yeah.
It was, but I can't put on that fucking machine, man. I feel like I'm dying. I'm gonna die with it on. For everything it's supposed to be doing, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
So I might have to go surgical at some point.
Get that
They got some.
Inspire thing.
So
Yeah,
They have
wait,
medication too, though, for that. There's Nuvigel. There's for people with sleep apnea. There's also medication.
I'm gonna have to look into that. Maybe you can text me some names of those because I got to do something. I feel
so
like
Well,
wait
I'm.
a second.
Yeah.
Wait a second, Zeus. If because I have a lot of sleep issues too, but at least I have a day job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've got sleep issues, but my job starts every morning at the same time and ends every afternoon or evening at the same time. So you're dealing with, not only does your schedule, at least with this job,
Mhm.
change all the time, where you're working nights, you're working days,
No,
you've
no, I
got
only work nights. I only
you
work
only
nights.
okay, so you're only working nights. You share a household with other people who are obviously functioning during the day. You don't have a room with like blackout curtains or whatever. So
Yeah.
you're really, do you ever dream at all? Because it seems like you probably don't get much sleep at a time, enough to
You
go
know,
through all the cycles.
I don't know who I was talking to about this. Maybe it was you, Mike, but I mean, clearly I dream, because if you don't dream, you're gonna go insane. It's like
Well, that's
you're
that's what I'm
purging.
asking. Yeah.
Like how your brain purges. So clearly I dream, but the interesting thing is I remember very little of any dreams. I can't remember the last dream that I remembered, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Is
because
it
you're probably not doing it a whole lot. If Mike went through like these cycles that you ease into the REM sleep
yeah,
after like three phases of sleep, and then they start up again, like
on the
you can
way
call
back out.
right, like the climax is the dream state, you know what I mean? If it's like a drama, and then there's
Yeah.
the whatever comes after the climax, I forget.
The ending.
The cigarette.
Yeah, the cigarette, right. But no, I mean,
Off.
if I mean, it seems like to go through all those phases of sleep, you require at least 7 hours. You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah,
to go through that.
exactly.
So
Seven consecutive,
that's what I
Yes.
uninterrupted,
mean.
Uninterrupted
Right,
sleep. That's the
uninterrupted
big,
sleep.
That's the key.
right.
That
because
is the
it reboots. You got to start the whole process over if you're woken up in the
Yeah.
middle.
See, and that's
Well,
that's
I
what
mean, right now the
yeah,
studies are showing that the purpose of sleep, they're finding out,
It's a
new
brain reset.
studies are emerging that it's like a brain bath,
Hmm.
that the brain is actually ridding itself of toxins that the neurons actually accumulate during the day in wakefulness. So they're
Yeah, I
seeing
get
the
that.
That's
purpose is like a detox in the brain. And what happens with sleep deprivation is that toxicity, or if you're just not getting enough sleep consecutively, that the toxins build up, and it really
It's
affects
electronic
your
clock,
mental
right?
health first and foremost. Again, it'll also affect your whole body, but um I mean, mainly I see changes in people's mental health. One of the things that I notice in the adult floor, um 9 out of 10 of them come in, they haven't slept in days,
You're
so they crack
stealing my
up.
thunder.
yeah.
That is
So
data
it's
can.
really important that you get that. Like, he doesn't make fun of me, but like, he sees that I have a thing about how much sleep we're getting. Is it consecutive? How did you sleep? Like, I'm big on it because I know how important it is.
It's kind of a foundational behavior. It's like if I'm not talking about just living, but like personally for me, a couple months ago, I was like, I kind of go through these periods where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be more healthy, right? So I'm like,
Mhm.
no alcohol, haven't had any alcohol since Labor Day, uh, eating less refined sugar. Anyway, all that sort of stuff. You kind of focus, more focus. Well, sleep is like, for any sort of thing that you do in your life for self-improvement, I really think sleep is like the first chapter in all
I
of those
agree.
books, because you need that foundation, whether it's by schedule, you at least need your body, your tool. If you're not like a gym rat and super healthy, you at least need yourself working as well as you can. And that's just getting a decent night's sleep, but it can be very
What you're
difficult.
doing during the day affects your ability,
Yes.
or lack thereof,
Yes,
sleep.
absolutely.
So it's all going hand in hand. So if
Yep.
you're like cleaning up your diet, not drinking alcohol, because you put these substances into your body, they affect your sleep.
Mhm.
or too much sugar or too much caffeine or whatever, screen time. A lot of us sit in front of a computer all day. The blue light from the screen and the phones, well, handheld devices, affects the brain in ways that it causes sleep interruption
Does
and
that?
disturbance.
I've heard
Yeah,
that.
I think I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying I've
Um,
heard that as well. But is that do you guys know? Like, say you watch TV for 2 hours one day, and it's in the middle of the afternoon, and then you go to sleep. Does that affect you? I'm assuming that would affect you less than if you watch 2 hours and immediately try to go to sleep at night. Like, watch from 8 to
The
10.
recommendation is no screen time 3 hours prior to bedtime, and we all know nobody's doing that.
Yeah, 3 hours. At
Right.
least a
And
phone.
that's including your handheld device.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 hours of no blue light, no screen
Wait,
prior
but
to bed.
okay, and that's based on these studies, Dana, that somehow link screen time with what you do when you go to
Sleep
sleep.
disturbance.
Like, okay, so like
Correct.
what? So they're saying by looking at an electrified screen and getting that light, that's doing
I would
something.
argue, I would argue yes, because like when you read a book, you're taking a natural light. Like I think probably reading a book before you go to bed is fine, but reading a book on a tablet is working totally different
Probably.
tones,
Yeah.
and nerves,
Yeah.
all
It's
that other
kind of
stuff.
counterproductive.
It's kind of like tricking your brain into thinking that you're out in the
And I
sunlight
know you
when
said that you slept with the TV on, and that a lot of people do, and they find it to be very white noise-ish or whatnot.
Mhm.
But that's one of the most unhealthy things to do,
Yeah.
probably
is to sleep with some TV or sound going. Like
Right,
unless it's like,
stimulation.
yeah.
well,
Yeah,
So
desperation
I
is
require
the
Jack will tell you I need the room to be as black as possible. He likes a little light, so we have like a little night light.
Yeah.
There's like a tiny bit of light, but if I could have the room absolutely pitch black, I don't know where I am. I would prefer that because I noticed being a nurse and doing that whole sleep thing, I noticed that made a huge difference for the quality of sleep that I was getting. If I had no light on whatsoever, whether it's artificial, sunlight, what have you, I needed to be in like pure blackness.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know how important. I think you can adjust, maybe not completely reprogram your circadian rhythm, but I think if you worked nights and you did that, and then the rest of your days that you weren't working, you follow that same pattern. I think probably your body would, in some way, adjust. Not perfectly, but yeah. The trouble is in nursing, you work through.
I don't think it ever does. I mean, I did it for a long time, and I know people that have done it for 30 years, and they just feel like garbage all the time.
Mm. Yeah, that's not good. I
Because
mean,
it's actually like the circadian rhythms actually connected to the earth and the sun and the moon, and
Yeah.
it's just you're really always going against nature.
Now,
yeah, and like I said, that
Yeah.
goes back to like what I was saying, light is the single largest influence on sleep habits.
well,
It's the number one factor as far as
Yeah.
here's
influencing.
something.
And the stimulation. Zeus, I'm with you. Like I like to have a little sound, even if it's like a podcast, people talking, whatever. Like if there's some like background noise on low and the soft glow of a screen, like that's the way I went to sleep as a kid growing up. Because if I didn't have that, I would just think. Like I am a pure insomniac. Like I was like big time my whole life. And
I think it has a lot to
it's
do with
only
how you were
recently though,
raised.
like recently, like you had said, Mike, what I do now leading up to sleep is so important. And that's why I don't have like when I go to bed, I'll go to bed. Like Dana and I will talk on the phone if we're not together. And it's like, okay, good night. And the phone is like near, but we're not talking anymore. We're not on the phone. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mhm.
just kind of like, and
A
then I
comfort.
know I'm going to sleep. The lights are off. I lay down, I breathe, and it's really nice. But the way I did it my whole life was like Zeus. Like I remember, and now if I take a nap during the day, if I'm lucky enough to do it when I need it, I have not only do I have natural daylight to contend with, I'll have to put some sound on too. Like if I just shut everything off and mute the phone, let's say I'm on my lunch break, right? And I'm like really tired. If I try to just lay in the bed, I won't sleep. I'll just lay there. Like
Yeah.
I need some sound.
I think that sound probably gives you something to focus on. You know what I mean? It's
Well,
like a point.
Without,
Even though
yes,
you're not consciously listening to it, you're probably not like, oh, that guy made a good point. Here, you're
right,
probably not front of brain with it.
right. But it
Yeah.
But
has,
if
here's
you
what
ever
I think
notice
that
when
is.
you listen to something, sometimes that'll interlace in your dream.
yes,
I
that's
have
the
it.
problem.
Okay, so that's
That's
very unhealthy.
no, Dana, I do that all the time. Like
But it's bad, Chad.
no, I cannot tell you how many times I have had it. I've tried to take a nap, and in my dream, I'm talking to like Jordan Peterson or Victor Davis Hanson is in there, and he's like making pancakes, talking about like the Israeli conflict.
Wait, I think
You
we just got our thumbnail. Hold on. Jordan
Well,
Peterson making
but
pancakes.
here's something I want to bring up.
Victor Davis Hanson,
Oh,
Jordan, yeah, Jordan Peterson's
I,
pouring like a like Jack and Coke, and he's just listening while Victor talks. Yeah, it's crazy.
So not to get too far away from it, I think as far as the people that need noise, I think that's probably that's a nurture thing. Like you grew up
Yeah.
in maybe a calamitous household where people were fighting all the time. It's just
Mhm.
you learned to sleep that way and you did it for so long, and it's in that like life pattern learning period of your life that you're more comfortable with that sound, not because the sound necessarily makes you comfortable, it's just familiarity.
No,
And
Zeus,
the familiarity is what makes you comfortable.
I think you're on to something. If you grew up as a kid where the TV was like I had a TV in my room growing up, thank God. And I would stay up, I would hope to fall asleep watching reruns, and I never would because I was into them. And then it was time for lights out, TV off, whatever. And I can remember being up all night. And maybe that is because of the chaos around, like, or because I was so in need of the TV and the VCR. Because eventually we had the VCR kids, and then it was all nighters all the time.
Well, I
But
mean,
but I remember that was definitely a nurture thing. But I guess what I'm saying now is when I go to bed at night, it's so much more healthy because I do the things that Mike's talking about. You know what I mean? I really I do. Like I mean, Dana, you know it. Like when we go to bed and we're on the phone, we go to sleep. I'm
Mhm.
out
We
pretty
we we go to sleep when we're together most of
well.
the time, and
Well,
we have a
right,
routine. We try to get to sleep, like actually sleeping before 11.
right.
Because we got to wake up at like 5,
Yeah,
and
that's
we have
six
a full
hours.
day.
Yeah.
well,
And we'll get in bed at 10, but then you're chatting or whatever,
Mm,
and by the time you're done, it might be like 10:30. By the time you fall asleep, it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock anyway.
Yeah.
right.
It's,
Yeah.
and then you got to get up, and someone has to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night,
Hmm.
and
yeah,
And
that, or women in my age that are in postmenopause or perimenopause or menopause that are waking up in pools of sweat, interrupting their sleep all night long.
Hmm.
That becomes a problem for a lot of women, not all, but I think a large percentage, like of upwards, um, and it can drive you nuts if you don't get
yeah.
enough sleep. Like you
And
said, Zeus, you want to die. You get that feeling like, oh,
oh my God,
like I could
I'm not
die.
even joking about that. You like literally, you're like, kill me now. Let me
and
I
get
it
some
know the
sleep.
feeling. I
it
know
can
it.
exacerbate other psychological or emotional or whatever issues
Hmm.
So
that you're
Yeah.
having. It can
I'm going to talk
really,
about two things
It
that Dana
does
will
exacerbate.
that Dana
yeah.
will totally attest to. Two things on a mental health unit that are so apparent. Like if you don't believe sleep is important, you look at somebody that hasn't slept for a week and they come onto your unit, and then the first thing they do, because usually I think it's just that they feel safe or whatever, but almost every time if they've been insomniac, they sleep for like a day.
They
And
do.
their presentation is
Night and day.
180 degrees different than when they got there. When they got there, CIA's trying to ruin their lives, blah, blah, blah. And when they wake up, they're still, worried about the CIA, but it's almost like the fumes of the madness.
But they're given a chance and they're giving a place to tune down.
Giving people that consider their sleep important. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, there are screaming loonies all around the place, but for lack of a better term, there's still more quiet than there is loud. You would think that behavioral health units are just always screaming, the hills are alive, just crazy stuff. They tend to be far more sedate at times than you would think. But yeah, one of my biggest things, I mean, maybe I'm a great nurse, maybe I'm not, but what I do tell every one of my patients, it's like, go get some sleep. And I'll get into it. I'll be like, look, I wish that I could go to a place where everybody was trying to foster me sleeping.
Right.
Giving me meds that keeping me quiet, turning off the lights, turning up the heat, giving me extra blankets, everything to like promote my sleep. I constantly, that's one of my go-tos. If a patient is just off their rocker, I'm like, go get some sleep. Do you need something to help you sleep? Let me help you sleep. And
they do. They do, because they're so used to being stimulated, and they almost are afraid not to be. And that's the whole thing with the TV on and all that. If you're suddenly alone with your thoughts, and you're either not comfortable with that, or you're so used to not having that it's frightening. Like, you need drugs to help you sleep that first like 8 hours. You know what I
take
mean?
100 milligrams of trazodone every day, and it only helps me sleep for like 45 minutes, and then I wake up.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Dana gets on me. She was kind of giggling about it. She didn't say, but like, her issue with me is like, in the middle of the night, I wake up. I'll get up to go pee, and my mind is so sharp that I wish it were like, 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, but it's like 1:30 or 2 or 3, and I feel like I'm up.
Yeah, like you can get up and start your day.
Yeah, and so I'll get up, I'll go have a smoke. If I really feel up, I'll sip a decaf, like a cup of tea, and all of which could lead to me just saying fuck it and picking up my guitar or a book or watching a podcast or watching a movie. And
well,
so
the cigarette alone will keep you up.
Well, I know, but I'm up. At that point, I'm like, fuck it, I'm having this. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I do the same thing. I smoke and I'm able to go right to sleep. It's it.
If you're gonna do it, you got to be quick about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you let yourself get too much,
that's what I was just saying. Yeah.
Stimulation, it will be harder to go right back down.
But
you're up.
So now that Dana's back, the other thing is so sometimes you also have patients that come in and they may not have been insomniac, but you can tell that they still need rest. And there is no more apparent flipping of a switch than that first day, because you'll get patients that are manic and they're walking around on your floor all night,
and they didn't sleep and they became manic, and then they snapped.
They get that one full night's of sleep, and it's sleep to me, man. It's like blood. It's like you need it. And much to what you guys are saying, I don't think I've had a really, really decent sleep in a long time, or a decent period in which I got to sleep, like a vacation, which those aren't sleep
No,
friendly.
yeah, you don't rest. You don't rest on vacation.
Look, when we went to the campground, we were up all night,
but
we felt well rested. That's the weird thing, is those times where you're doing things that are not conducive with the amount of sleep you need, the restful sleep you need, but other maybe positive things are going on in your head. So maybe you don't have those neural toxins.
I mean, it's okay to do once in a while, like when we went to the campsite, like, friends that haven't seen each other, and like you're up till 4 a.m. chatting it up or whatever.
Yeah, you're gonna have adrenaline.
We're all well rested. None of us slept.
But if you do this consecutively and consistently over the course of a week, even, you're really, you're playing with fire.
Yeah, it's no good, especially if you tie it into, I mean, if you're, and I've done this in periods of my life, like when I would go to bed, it's because I was absolutely exhausted. Like that's when I would go to bed. That's not good. You should, the more consistent you can be with like, here's when I'm going to bed, or at least the 20 minutes before you close your eyes. If you just make that the same thing every day, like whatever that is, brush your teeth, put on your bunny rabbit slippers,
Yeah, I
like
think
whatever you do,
routine is
like Zeus eats a quart of peanut butter, whatever it is you do, and then you go to sleep. You do the same thing every time. It
Routine.
helps. It
So
helps a lot.
there's something called sleep hygiene that
yeah.
you go over with, like, it's a part of health, like a huge part of health. And it's not just for people who are having a hard time with sleep, it's for everyone. And there's recommendations. Everything you said, Mike, is a part of the sleep hygiene, you know, routine, going at the same time, having the same schedule, no electronics for 3 hours prior to, having a clean bed,
Mm,
having clean sheets, having the right bedding, having clean pajamas, a clean body. Like those things can make a world of a difference in the quality of your sleep. If people are just like laying down and then like they're in an uncomfortable bed, or it's dirty or soiled, or they have their work clothes on, they collapsed in their scrubs, whatever. You're not gonna get you're
the
not
restful
gonna get the
sleep.
same quality.
Yeah.
So
There
it's important to have like to look into the sleep hygiene guidelines, and no one's perfect, but at least know a few of them and try to shoot for something on there.
Right. If there's a list of seven, maybe every night make sure you have at least a couple, right? I mean, like, why
Right, like
not?
make sure or just keep them in mind and try to strive for it, especially if you're having problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you're like one of these people, like I don't have too many issues around sleep. The only thing I had was the night sweats over the years, the past, I don't know,
Couple.
decade, where I would wake up because I was absolutely drenched. And I would hear other women say things like, well, I get up, I have to change my pajamas, I have to take a shower, and
Mm,
then I have to dry off, put on new pajamas, and then go to bed and change the sheets
wow.
and then go to bed again. Well, you know what? This woman wasn't doing that. So I slept through it. I slept through the heat, I slept through the soaks, because if I didn't, I wasn't going to sleep at all.
Yeah.
So I had to start paying attention to the sleep hygiene, guidelines, to try to help myself a little bit because I was struggling.
To
So
do.
that's why I
Yeah.
like to have no lights. That's why I like no noise. I like a schedule. Those are the three things that I think I take from there. And, of course, like I like to have pajamas on, and I like to be
Yeah.
clean. And I like a clean bed. Like those are the things I like. And the temperature in the room is very important too.
That's
They also
huge.
said, if you can crack a window for fresh air, definitely do that. And that, you need to keep the room a cool temperature, like 64 or whatever, and
Mhm.
and keep your warmth under the cover,
Yeah.
because of, it's healthier. The air is healthier to breathe in.
Yeah. No, I sleep much better when I'm slightly cold like that, for sure.
Yeah, me
Mhm.
too.
How about, so not to jump, but I don't want to miss talking about dreams. I mean, obviously they're very interesting. Um, I'm kind of interested, just as a jumping off point with dreams, is like types of them. Um, there are, I've had dreams what I call like kind of one off, and these tend to be like scary or frightening, but they don't, and they tend to be like not really tied to anything I can think of. But I have other dreams that I've gone in and out of for years, like a place, a certain kind of like situation in a dream, and all this time will go by, and then I'll have another dream, and I'm like, oh my God, it's been 3 years since I dreamed about that place or whatever. Do you guys have anything like that where you
Like a
have
recurring dream.
like a recurrent, yeah, like a
Yeah,
recurring?
I've had that.
It's kind of weird.
I don't know
haven't-
that I don't know that I have had a recurring dream. I think because I remember dreams a lot now.
Mhm.
It seems like Dana and I are always talking about them. But I don't. That's occurred to me because I read somebody wrote a book where they said that they were having this recurring dream, and then one day they found themselves like seeing it in real life.
Wow.
I forget who it was. It was like an autobiographical book. I honestly I can't remember who it was or why I was reading it. But I dream vividly a lot, and I don't think I have recurring themes in my dreams. Like there's definitely things that are very similar to other dreams, but never like the same,
Place.
right. Never
I
like
have
the
the same place type of dreams.
Yeah, I have a lot of those. I've got this one series where I'm and I again, I I always get suspicious of people when they're at the Renaissance fair and everyone's dressed up as like kings and queens. I'm like,
Mm.
most of the people were just schlubs. You know what I mean? It's not like everyone wasn't like a court jester or a knight. So, but I've had these series of dreams where I'm obviously some kind of like illegal group, gang, whatever you want to call it, like early 20th century in some metropolitan area. And
Hooligan.
I want to get out of it. And I'm kind of like always afraid of getting found out by the other people. And I've had episodes of this dream for easily over a decade. Like, sometimes I have
Do you
successive
think that it's
nights.
like, I mean, I don't know if you believe in like past lives and,
This kind of makes me, yeah. And I've talked to my wife about it too. And it's like, I'll
because
have this
I
dream and
think
it's
that
like the
could be a
same
past
person.
life. Yeah, that could be a past life experience.
Yeah. It's
Because I've
freaky.
had dreams like that too, where all of a sudden I was in some other era, and I've woken up like, wow, that was definitely insightful. Like that wasn't just, dreaming of like, I don't know what typical things people dream of.
Or
But like there was a different quality to it that had my attention. There was details in the dreams that I would have never even known that are
that's
real
the
historically.
that's the key. Like
Yeah,
I've had dreams where I wake up and I'm like, okay, the neon green unicorn with the tank treads instead of feet, that was because I saw that neon. You know what I mean? Like I can point to things the
right.
day
I
before.
know why I had that dream. I was just thinking of blah blah blah.
Right. But then there's ones
Those
like
you
you
can't.
said, there's this particular run of dreams I've had. Like there's things in there like I have no experience with. Like I don't even I wouldn't have just accidentally stumbled upon it. Like the detail's too high.
Right.
And it's not something I experienced. Anyway, so that's how about do you dream much, Zeus?
For me, it's interesting that like when I dream, I can remember dreams I had as a youth, and I remember them as being vivid and bright and loud and like all this stimulus in the dream. And now, if I do remember a dream, it's like in sepia and it's got like Vaseline over the lids. Like they're the vividness of my dreams now is severely diminished from when I was younger. Does that make any sense
That
to you
you're
guys?
recalling. No,
Like,
I
yeah, I
get
don't
it.
I don't remember with the clarity that I did. Most of the dreams that I remember now are hazy and dark, and usually my more violent of dreams. And I'm not a violent person by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want to hurt anybody. But man, there's a different quality to the dreams that I have now versus when I was even 40,
Mhm.
Um,
Have you
and
guys ever kept a journal? I
no,
haven't. I've
Yes,
always
I
wanted
do.
to. You have?
I have for many, many years.
Wow.
Because I mean, I have a very like interesting dream life. Like I have ever since I was very little, I would have lucid dreams where I would pipe up in the middle of it and go, "Wow, this is a dream. Like I can do whatever I want." And I
Yeah.
started to manipulate the environment and try to, like, put in my own anything. Like, I knew I could make anything happen, but I was very conscious that this was just a dream.
Yeah.
And so that became like, and I could touch things like they were real. It was real. It's really insane experience.
That
I
just
don't
brought
get it now as much, but I get them sometimes still.
Yeah.
that brought to mind an old movie. Great, it's a horrible movie, but it's from my youth, so it's a great movie. Do you guys remember a movie called Dreamscape with?
Oh,
Yeah,
Dennis Quaid?
Wait, Dennis Quaid.
Dude.
It's not a terrible movie.
I was going to
It's
use
a
it as
terrible-
my background.
Yeah, what do you
The
what do you
snake,
got
the
there?
snake guy.
Hey, what is that? Spellbound?
The
Spellbound.
snake guy,
Yeah.
snake guy,
That's
yeah.
very good. Yeah. Spellbound.
How she was talking about that just made me think about that. Like, that was such a cool movie at the time. And then, of course, you follow it up with almost a ripoff of that was the
In-
Nightmare on Elm
Inception.
Street stuff.
And
What's that?
Inception.
Yeah.
There's
What
a new
about-
dream
yeah.
movie with Nicolas Cage. He's
Oh,
like
I think
walking into everyone's dreams.
Oh, that
Yeah,
looks good. It
The
looks
Nicolas
good.
Cage
You know what?
movie.
Oh,
I
it's
think a
new.
common
Yeah.
trope is that
Yeah, his new one.
movies revolving around dreams are often very, very good when done well. What dreams may come,
Yeah.
I can think of a lot of dream movies where I really got into them because there was something that it tapped into.
Well, there's the.
I want to talk about negative effects of losing sleep. Have you ever
Well-
had like a long period of time where you're not sleeping and you start to have like these, for lack of a better term, I'm going to say shocks to the brain. Like, it feels like there's some short circuit that happens for a second. Like, you feel what can only be described as some kind of electricity in your brain, like, or a vibration. But I have that happen every once in a while, and it freaks me the hell out. Have you
I've
guys
had,
ever?
that as I'm falling asleep, sometimes I feel like something electric pop.
Yeah.
It wakes
In
me
your
up,
head.
like startles me a little.
Uh-huh.
You're equating it with exhaustion, but that might be true. I didn't notice a pattern about it, but it's almost like you hear it sizzle.
What?
Yeah.
I've not had that. Yeah. I don't know what the.
I haven't had any now another cool. This is kind of cool. I find it bizarre because it was terrifying when it happened to me. It's only happened once, and I think we've discussed this on the show before. But where you're lying there and you're awake, but you can't move, your
Sleep
whole
paralysis.
body is sleep paralysis. I had it happen once, and although it was terrifying, there was a cool quality to it, like that you're there, but it often reminds me of is it when Johnny Comes Marching Home, where he's banging his head to "Please Kill Me"? They did the
Johnny,
video
get your
for
gun. Yeah.
Johnny, get your gun.
Johnny, get your gun. That's what I always think of when I think of that one time that it happened. And like, there's part of me that wants it to happen again just so I can like explore it this time. But I was like 16 when this happened. It was almost.
Yeah. I mean,
40.
if you're watching Johnny Get Your Gun and you're like, oh man, that's so nice just being able to lay there without anyone bothering me.
Yeah, you didn't
You're-
get it.
You're not getting enough sleep. Yeah. You need to get some more sleep.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that I never even saw that movie until well after this. But the experience was unique because you could hear everything going on around you. You're watching TV, but I was trying to move my arms or say anything, and that's when it got scary. Like, that's when it really terrified me. Is like people were walking around. My mom and dad were like walking around talking, and I'm like, I couldn't word anything. I couldn't move my arms. I couldn't move my legs, but my eyes were clearly open because I'm seeing what's going on around me. It was terrifying, but it was kind of invigorating too. I can't explain why it's
Well,
like that, but
in one of
It'd
the
be interesting.
phases, I was just saying, in one of the phases of sleep, they actually talk about muscle, not paralysis, but that you
Yeah.
don't move as much.
There's a paralysis.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's a poor use of the term paralysis, but that's definitely.
You also
Closest.
the olfactory bulb, shuts off too
Oh, I didn't know
in
that.
some phases of sleep. Yeah,
So you can't smell.
Like- yeah. In certain phases of sleep, you can't smell.
Well, that's just for
Well, your
night party.
hearing goes off. Like you're not, if there's sound going on, like if you're sleeping, you're not hearing it.
Have you ever woken up and like been like hyper defense mode? Nothing's going on. You didn't hear anything. Nothing woke you up, but you're like walking around, looking around corners, all that.
I haven't.
Just
Yeah.
God woke you up at that moment to defend the household or whatever, but you just have this weird hyper vigilant mode right when you wake up. That happens to me all the time.
No, that's happened to me if I'm in the middle of like a dream, like a very tense, scary dream or something, or the noise that's going on starts to infiltrate the dream. Like, has there ever been a noise going on somewhere where you're asleep and in your dream that sound becomes part of the dream? Like
Oh yeah.
it's a giant clock, or it's somebody hammering something, or it's like you visualize this, you attribute some truth to whatever the sound is, and then it snaps you out of the, like, you wake up and there it is, like, oh
Yeah,
shit,
you
you
can
know.
fabulate.
Or that thunderclap from hell that
Oh,
we
yeah.
thought it was
Right.
the end of the world.
Oh no, that was real, and that I wasn't dreaming. That woke us out of a dead sleep.
That was very frightening.
Rack.
Yeah, no, Dana and I one morning, she was sleeping over. We were here, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, we were here. And what was it? Like, was it thunder?
That was the loudest thunderclap I've ever heard in my
Wow.
life.
It was the
And
loudest thing.
Jack's mom said it was the loudest she ever heard in
So
her
it must have
life.
been right outside your place. The
Yeah,
lightning.
but now Dana and I, we're in like a high rise, like not high rise, but yeah, a high rise apartment
It was on
building,
the 20th floor.
right? No, well, right, but if you're
That's
living
a
in the
high. That's a high
suburbs, it's a
rise.
high rise, right?
You guys
So
are in New York. The
yeah,
rest of
right.
us, that's a
Right.
big
So
building.
we're right across the Hudson River from Manhattan, and the boom happens, and we both like sit up out of a dead sleep, and we look at each other, and then there's no other sound. The sun's starting to come up. You can see the natural light coming in, and we ended up just kind of like, wow, that was really loud. What was that? Thunder? Like we're just
I
kind of
was
like,
waiting like moments later to melt.
well, right.
Wow.
We no, Mike, we
Yeah,
talked about it
I'm
after
not
the
even
fact.
exaggerating.
I
No,
believe it.
no, she asked me after the fact, like, what were you thinking when we heard that? And I said, I thought it was World War III and we were
It
about to
was a
get
bomb.
toast. Like
Wow.
in that moment, I was like, I looked at her and I said, this is the end of the world. In that moment, that's what I thought. And Dana said later she
I
thought the
thought the
same
same
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was the scariest fucking wake
But
up
that
ever.
was like the rare occurrence that like you just wake up.
Right. We were
Right. Like that's not typical. I don't typically wake up like that.
Yeah.
It's weird how your reactions from being woken up in different fashions is also amazingly like today, for instance, when I got woke up at 3:45 after only having probably 4 minutes of REM sleep. I had just woken up before he did this, but I was still in that haze. And my wife says to my oldest, "Wake up your dad," and he goes, "Dad!" Like he just fucking yells it at me.
That's horrible.
And man, the murderous rage that you have when somebody like shocks you awake, man, if I'm ever capable of killing somebody, it's in that fucking moment.
Yeah, it's a bad moment.
I was ready to put my fist in his chest. I'm like, I just right from sleep to fucking visceral, angry yelling. I'm like, who the fuck do you think you are? Yeah, I'm gonna come do that to you. But you never wake up when I ask you. Well, why don't you try doing it a little slower, pal? Why don't you just be calm?
Yeah. There's certain ways to do it.
That will induce rage quicker than shit. And don't even get me started when I'm driving down the road and I fall asleep because I'm drinking and I wake up to it like that. No, but man, I was infuriated. And he does it all the time. The only person, oddly enough, is my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law woke me up today to lift my head to put a pillow under it, and then she threw a blanket on me.
Nice.
She's won massive points with me with that.
Wow,
That's
like,
nice.
The kindness is it's exclamatory, and the rudeness of it is equally so. Like,
There,
yeah, your reaction.
there's something about being tended to, I think, when you're sleeping that's very that happens
That's
when
a
you're a
mommy
kid.
thing. That's like nurture
Well,
me. That's like
yeah, I
let
mean,
me be the big
I remember as a
mommy.
kid, like, I don't, a leg sticking out of the bed, and like one of my parents probably going to sleep came in, like pushed me back into bed. I'd kind of wake up, or I mean,
Mhm.
it's or get someone getting you a pillow or pulling the blankets on you
Or
or
you
something
fall
like
asleep
that.
somewhere, they carry you to bed and put you in.
Yeah, it's
You
been
know
a
what
long
is a
time, but
really
Zeus
Yeah,
did
it's a
it
nice
a while
feeling.
ago.
Zeus did it
He
earlier. Yeah.
carried me to bed.
you know it's a really nice way to fall asleep as an adult, at least for a guy. I mean, at least for me, maybe I'm a pussy, but like lying down in a girl's lap and falling asleep
Oh
there.
yeah,
That there is something so comforting
oh yeah,
about that. That's like back in the womb kind of shit.
a little scalp
But
massage.
I haven't done that in wow, decades. But man, I used to love that. That was how I wanted to fall asleep every night. You know? Yeah, sleep is very important. God damn, it's important.
You know,
I like
the
I said,
the
it's
other
like blood.
thing, the other thing with sleep, again, with the whole dream thing that is interesting, just culturally, how many things are tied to it. Like Dracula, he sleeps in a coffin. I mean, the whole idea of like sleep kind of being, again, like I said, like an analog to death, or
Yeah, eternal rest, right?
e-
Eternal sleep.
eternal rest, eternal sleep. Um, again, something that's both feared and adored, at the
Mhm.
same time. Um,
Yeah,
the whole idea of zombies,
yeah, what did Edgar Allan Poe call sleep? Like little slices of death,
something, yeah,
Yeah.
something like
something
that.
like that.
Yeah, that may be where I'm remembering that from. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
think it was Poe.
it's like, again, it's like the one thing: everyone poops, everyone eats, everyone sleeps, and it's like it's this huge thing that is so important, and most people never even think about it or talk about it. I guess they just take it for granted. I mean, I know I have. The longest I've ever gone, or the longest I've gone without much sleep was, it was like 5 or 6 days. And
Wow,
within that 5 or 6 days, I got about 8 hours of sleep within that 5 or 6 days.
I've done
And
that.
I was like a Looney Tune, But
And I'll
again,
bet that
that
was in your
was
teen years, right?
no, it was more just like more distress than anything. I don't think I
No, I
could.
said that was your teen years,
No,
probably.
I was older.
No,
I was older than that. But yeah, I mean, being young, like I always think it's hilarious. My nephews who are all in their teens now, but you remember when you're like 16, you'd sleep till like 1 in the afternoon, or you could if
Yeah,
people
but you
let
went to
you.
sleep at like 3 in the morning.
True, but even if I went to sleep, or I mean, I would sleep for like 15 hours. I mean, I slept long time when
yeah,
I was in
it's
high
Teenagers need
school.
extra sleep, actually.
Yeah,
well, your
And
body's growing.
so, yeah, and some school districts are looking to push back the high school day. So
to
instead
start
of
later.
going to start later, and they're going to end later, but it's to cater to the human need that you get at that age where you do require more hours.
And the
Well,
siesta.
if they do that, I'm gonna walk into Ollie's room at like 7 a.m. Ollie, wake up.
I I tell you, I love naps. I never really get to take a nap during the week, but there have been times, like if we're camping or like sometimes during the weekend, where like if I'm tired or I get myself into a mood, like frustrated or want to kick the cat or something like that, and just go up and lay down for 20 minutes, especially when I go up and I'm like, I'm gonna lay down for 20 minutes, like set my timer on my phone and just close my, and you wake up and you just feel so much better. Not even
Yeah,
wake up, you just get, it doesn't even take that much time. I just think there's cultures that have a siesta. I think they're onto something.
yeah, but you know
Yeah.
what? You just reminded me of something though, Mike. Because sometimes you're right. That little nap is just what you need, and you wake up and you feel so much better. But there's also something to the like you talked about the phases of sleep, and Dana talked about the hours required, right? Like according to the American Medical Association or whatever.
Yeah.
But I find what's really important to how I feel in the morning is the timing of when I wake up. Because if I wake up in the wrong cycle, like there,
Yes.
like it almost has nothing to do with what time I went to bed or what time I wake up. There's some mornings I'll wake up maybe during a dream and I feel kind of already alert, right? And there's other times where the alarm will go off or my internal alarm will go off. And it could have been the same time of day the day before with the same amount of sleep, but I feel different. I feel like a zombie.
Yeah. Or like,
And I
or a weight is on you, like you feel
Yeah,
heavy. Yeah.
yeah. And then there's other times
Borderline.
I'll wake up with the same amount of sleep and I'm like, woohoo, hey Dana, wake up, let's go. You know what I mean? Like it just I can't figure it out. I wish I could figure it out because I would make it like always be
No, you're,
a
and
more enjoyable process.
I think it's where you're at in those phases. I've described it to my wife as there's times when I wake up and like usually it's with an alarm and I feel like I'm still under. Like I'm
Yeah,
still like and I feel heavy. I feel like I can barely get my eyes open. And if I
yeah,
go to sleep and wake up 45 minutes later, I'm bang. Or you
When you
wake
wake
up,
up on your own without an alarm, that's when it's
that's the
probably the
best.
least,
Yeah,
the least
Least
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
yeah, you know what? We should hunt down the people that decided to make alarms jarring and
What
like
about waking up a
loud and
minute before
beep
your
beep
alarm goes
beep.
off? That's
Who's
I
always,
that?
love that.
yeah. Waking up a minute before your alarm.
Yay.
There should be an alarm clock that's like, sweetie, wake up, sweetie. It's okay, wake up. Wake
Well,
up.
it's,
Maybe you can have a little finger that like pokes you on the arm. Come
I'm
on,
sure
baby
it
doll.
exists because there's
Not
nothing
my
new
house.
under the sun. But what about an alarm clock that slowly gets brighter?
They have
They have,
those,
I'm sure they have it. Yeah, and it goes like
and it has like a
beep beep.
beautiful like coming to noise that's natural.
Hey,
You
Michael,
know.
we're all talking, thinking maybe a good time to get up, Michael. You know what I mean? Like some little voice like that. Hey, Zeus, why don't you go down and have a Twinkie for breakfast, man? Why don't you go make
Nobody's
some waffles?
nobody's awake. Go out and have a smoke real quick
This
before you.
Yeah.
sleep is also a coping mechanism for depression. I notice that when I'm not my best mentally, if I'm like, going through like a bout of the blues or something, one of the things sleep is like a go-to for me.
Yeah.
But when
Well,
I'm
yeah,
not
but that's
mentally
a
like
huge sign of depression
feeling,
is sleeping.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I do it. Like I know if I'm taking like 3 hot showers a day and sleeping in between them,
It's probably
I'm in no man's land.
yeah. No, not good.
But
Not
it
good.
does, it can reflect, like lots of sleep, the opposite of what we're talking about
Well,
is
that's like one of the
also
huge
not.
signs of depression, though, is sleeping all day, not doing
Yeah,
anything. I think part of it is like your body just needs to, reboot. But I think also part of it is you just don't want to deal with anything external.
right. You
And
shut
where do
down.
you go but to sleep? Yeah. So there's probably that's probably a mixed bag of reasons for the sleep and depression, I think. But yeah, I can totally attest to being more depressed with the less sleep I have. Your triggers are far more volatile.
At the
It takes
surface.
very little to get you going off when you don't get enough sleep.
Well, like Dana
Yeah.
said earlier, I mean, you can get manic, right? You can get the opposite of depressed. You can get, like you said, just jumpy, agitated, kind of all over the
Yeah,
place.
but there's different, like manic is more mentally, more internal. Like insomnia, that be staying awake. I mean, that's like fear of dying when you go to sleep. There's
No,
or
I don't mean insomnia. I mean like if you have a prolonged week where you're not getting any sleep or you're only adding up, it's going to make you manic. Like I mean, it's going to make you're
Yes, it
behaviorally,
can.
yeah, it's going to make you a
Until
little
until you have a psych break, like
right.
almost like a complete break with reality.
Yeah.
I've often I've often hoped, being a psych nurse, this will sound funny, but you might even agree with this. I kind of wish I would have one of those breaks. to just like reboot myself psychologically, just to, well, I've gone as far as I can go. It's all up from here. That kind of vibe.
Right.
And again, like there's also in that break, people cater to you. They foster your sleep. They do things that you're not obviously capable of doing for yourself, and kind of push you into a better state. But there's a lot to that. That's
there's a psychology. They talk about it with incarcerated people too. Like if you do something to the point where you go to jail, whether it's a DUI, you got into like you are sentenced and you go to jail. They say there's a psychology about that with some people who actually rehabilitate, is that when they get to that point and they hear the clink and they look at the gray cell, that they realize, wow, this is rock bottom. At least I don't have to drop any further than this. Like I can start going up now. Like it's a breaking point.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people who end up going manic or having a psych break, like Zeus is talking about, it's not anything you would ever want to do. But I think the psychology of it is when people get lucid, right? Let's say that's you, and then they medicate you and you get a good night's sleep, and you're like one of your patients that seems like a whole different person the next day. Like you've hit rock bottom. So then you're like, okay, I can start all over now. And so I think that's what you're talking about. Like, I mean, when things get
well,
so crazy, you almost wish that everybody would help you out from the bottom, and then you
Mhm.
could start all over again.
you guys all know like the turmoil, things that I go through. And I think
Yeah.
for me, if I were to have that break, it would just be a relief to not have to have any control for a while, to leave it in God's hands, whatever. You know what I
Right.
mean? Just
Be taken care of.
You want to
not
get
even
admitted.
so much be taken care of, just to not have to control anything. Just
Mhm.
cut loose. Hopefully, you don't hurt anybody. Hopefully, you don't hurt yourself. But just go fucking mad for a day. Like I would love to try ketamine treatment. Like the things I hear about that are astounding, and that is like deep sleep 14 seconds. Like you take it and then you're off in another world.
Is that like a horse tranquilizer or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, but there's a lot of really good talk about it. Jason did ketamine treatment, and he said it changed his life for like 6 months. Then he was back to being bonkers again, but for 6 months he was cleansing, and I think
No,
there might be
I've
something,
heard about it. I've looked at that a little bit too,
there
because
might be something to be said for altered states versus sleep, like maybe
you
like
know,
ayahuasca,
well,
DM, DMT, like a few of these things where you're not sleeping, but you're not in your present state of mind, could also be kind of therapeutic.
yeah, I've heard Rogan talk about that. It's something that's not quite sleep, but it sort of has a dream-like quality. It's hallucinogenic. That's what it is. You just hallucinate.
Uh, I'll
Hmm.
tell you this much: Mike Tyson was on his show, and he had done DMT, and there is no greater change in a man that I've ever seen than Mike Tyson from like 10 years ago, and him post his DMT and ayahuasca things. He's like an insightful. I don't want to say he's smart, but not your standard smart. He says really knowledgeable things or wise things
Mm.
that you wouldn't have expected from the guy that said, I'll bite your face off. I'll fuck you like your mother, faggot," whatever he said.
Right,
Remember?
right.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a different guy. And the only thing that seems to stand out is that he did some hallucinogenics. I guess we're getting away from the sleep, but there is kind
No,
of a
it's
connection.
altered
You know?
states, different
Yeah.
phases of existence. Yeah.
And
Well,
I think even
there's like
when I
also
tripped,
two different phases of consciousness. So sleep is like our first level of like loss of consciousness, and then
Hmm.
comes like the coma, like
Yeah.
a comatose state, and then like they eventually lead to like death, and beyond. Like, so there's these levels of like consciousness. So
Well, it's
I
like
think that's
Maslow.
interesting too. Like, very interesting.
When
There's also
Maslow,
like tripping is another one.
Did you
Yeah,
guys ever have the same dream as somebody else? Because Dana and I had that.
Like we
no.
shared a dream.
Yeah,
I
like
don't.
we shared a dream. Like I was talking about a dream, or Dana was talking about the dream to me, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And then I would say, "This is what happens next," and
That's awesome.
we were both
It
like, "Holy
happened to
shit!"
us once.
It
That's
happened to us
awesome.
once. Yeah, it was weird,
Like
man. And
details. It was crazy.
it was it was a creepy dream. It was not like a nice
It
dream.
was very creepy.
Yeah, it was fucked up.
That's so. Were you guys?
We're still trying to figure it out.
Were you in
Hmm.
physical proximity, or were you guys in different houses, or like were you guys
No, we
near
were
each other?
sleeping in the same bed.
Okay, I mean that's what I didn't know. Like when this happened,
Mhm.
like
Yeah, no, it
if
Was
you
it
was
woke
when
up and called each other, or whether you were right there.
no, we were right
No.
there. It came up. Like
That's
obviously,
amazing.
yeah, it was
We talk
freaky.
about our dreams a lot, and then that came up. Like I must have started, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I dreamt the same thing." Like, and then he would add some details. I'm like, "Yeah, that's what happened." I said,
Mm.
and then I would say, and then it looked like this, and he was like, "Yeah," and
Yeah.
like we were
wait,
describing the
you lived
same.
in a pineapple under the sea?
No, it was more like a basement.
They're sleeping to
No,
SpongeBob SquarePants.
it was like Stanley Kubrick meets fucking I don't know. It was really
It was really weird.
yes, and there was that old couple that was
That
glowing.
glowed,
Oh, it was fucked up. It was messed up.
and they were like tall and
Yeah,
thin.
they were like gaunt.
Wow,
And gray.
No, yeah, and it started out as like a family gathering, like a dinner,
It was
and
my
both
aunt's
of us,
house.
and right, and in my version of the dream, I was me and I was a guest. So these people were strangers, but in Dana was the one whose family it was. So in her dream, she was bringing me as a guest, but it was her family.
wow.
And then for both of us, there were these an old man and an old woman at the end of the table that didn't quite fit. She didn't know who they were. I obviously didn't know who they were, but they looked like the lighting on them was different from the natural look of everybody else around them. So they looked ethereal.
Yeah,
And then
Yeah,
there
they
was
did.
all and then there was like other stuff, like we got separated and then everybody was gone.
that's
And then
uncanny. How
it
long?
was
And then we went through this door, and we
yes.
were in this place that was like almost like a cement underground of sorts,
Yes.
with nothing in it, but like it went deep. Like
Yes.
we
It
just
was like a
started walking into it. We
yeah.
turn around, and that glowing couple's standing there.
Yeah, but now they're like no, but then they were naked at the end.
They were naked, and they were like 10 feet tall.
Yeah, they were lanky.
Damn.
Yes.
I
It
think you
was
guys got abducted.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, kind of. Like maybe you were
Yeah,
abducted.
up until the
Sounds
10
like
foot tall people,
aliens. Yeah,
yeah, the 10 foot tall people giveaway, you guys were anally probed.
and they're lanky. They're lanky.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my ass
We did
hurt the
look a
next
little
day.
alien.
Yeah, we got to do another
The
aliens
best of
episode
movies.
soon, I think.
Yeah,
Gotta do an
we're waiting for volume 3, Mike. You
Yeah,
gotta
I'll pull Volume 3 together for
Mike and I have
the
been
next time we
tooling
do
around
it.
with the whole Ancient Apocalypse. It's a show on Netflix, and it's all about like basically it's not quite aliens. It could be aliens, but it's more about like uh, we're not the first evolved civilization that's been on Earth. Like
Oh
that,
yeah,
there were the just a fucking 100,000 years ago. There was like cities and all this other stuff, and whatever wiped it out. But it's an intriguing topic. But yeah, aliens would be great too.
yeah.
I just think we haven't gotten any new alien stuff lately. That's the thing.
There's a lot. There's a lot in the news. I mean,
We just live in
also
the same food. Like
I was thinking of killer robots in combat, since over in Ukraine there's a
absolutely.
lot going on, but I just wanted to do something that wasn't completely depressing tonight, and that was
Well,
kind of
no.
your
sad.
robot one, your
Well,
Well,
robot
I
one.
thought
sleep
it was great, and I wanted to come on because I'm so interested in sleep. injury.
Yeah,
So
and
good for
sleep,
you, Mike.
You're
sleep,
welcome.
sleep isn't depressing, but if you sleep too much, you might just be depressed.
You might be depressed. That's
Right.
true. Yeah, when you wake up, if you're wearing the same clothes for the third day, probably not good.
Unbathed.
You're not
Unbathed.
practicing good sleep hygiene then.
No. But
I guess
I mean,
not.
we've all like gone to sleep wearing the pajamas that we woke up in, I'm sure. That's
I
happened.
think
Hey,
Especially if you're sick.
Hey, listen, I work at home, so there's definitely days where I wake up and that's
Yeah.
what I go back to sleep, and it just is
Yep.
what it is. All
Well,
right,
See,
so
I'm not like a regimented, like organized guy, but like if I'm gonna work, like if I was working from home, I would have to get dressed. Don't know what it is.
yeah, but
Maybe it's
see, the thing is, when I wake up, I'm dressed already, so I don't have to actually I'm already there. See?
you're already
no,
there.
I mean big people clothes, not your jammies. Fucking
All
jeans and
right.
a t-shirt.
Okay, we've been on for a while now, I think, guys. I think it's time to wrap things up.
Time to wrap
All right.
things up.
Thanks,
All
Let's all
right.
put on our
everybody.
and go night night.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.